That's a power move.
Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the second episode of Power Moves, the unscripted show starring me and you. So this week, I would like to talk about something that's actually in the moment now, for once. That has to do with PlayStation and the ownership of digital media. It might not be a hot-button topic, but I feel that it is important to talk about your rights as a consumer and the things that you don't know are going on with the content you purchase. The original Sony PlayStation was the first ever console I owned back in 1996. It's the first one that I bought with my own money from mowing lawns. It was a time where games felt exciting. Games felt experimental. There was a push to really put out just as much as possible, kind of throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. And it was a very exciting time to be a gamer. Because, you got fucking weird shit like Thousand Arms, which was a RPG with a dating simulator, or Ape Escape, Tale of the Sun, all the Art Dink stuff. I mean, I could go on for forever and ever. PlayStation felt like this really, almost punk rock force that was coming in and challenging, the big dogs like Sega and Nintendo. And you felt that electricity in everything surrounding it, in knowing that, well, if you didn't like this game that was coming out next week, you might like this game that was coming out next week. We got, for the first time ever, arcade perfect ports, and my personal favorite time in graphical fidelity with the mix of 2D sprites and 3D backgrounds. I think of Tsukio Gurenten, Final Fantasy Tactics. Here's the cold, hard truth of that, though. Corporations don't care about you. And I know that's really hard to admit, because you grow up with these things throughout your life. My first ever memory is playing Zelda with my mother, so Nintendo is important to me. But Nintendo doesn't care if I get hit by a truck. The only thing Nintendo cares about is if I'm actively giving them money or not. And it's hard to see Sony that way for me personally, because I have that connection. I mean, I still have my original copy of Final Fantasy Tactics, and I don't have most of my original games, so that's saying a lot. But it was also an extremely different time. And then after that, you have the time where Sony's coming out swinging, and then the PlayStation 2 dominates, and they become like the power in the gaming industry. Fighters have talked about this on the last podcast, and that's when things kind of started to change after that. Fast forward a couple years, and with the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, you have the advent of digital purchases. This is where it gets sketchy. We were sold this promise that digital media meant, because they didn't have to make game discs or manuals or boxes anymore, we would be getting a lot of this stuff at a discount. It would be a lot quicker, and it would be directly to us, instead of having to go through a third party. That really never happened. One of the many issues here is that if you go and buy Call of Duty on the PlayStation Store right now and pay $80 for it, what are you paying $80 for? If you're getting it digitally, you're not getting the game box or a special edition or a pre-order. So what are you paying $80 for? And this has nothing to do with the developers. I believe, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, that they can suggest an MSRP, but that it's mostly up to the higher-ups and the marketing over at Sony itself or Capcom or what have you. The next issue is the fine print that you're not reading at the beginning of a game. Those long lawyer speak things at the beginning of games that you usually skip through and just hit I accept. You're pretty much saying that the content that you purchased, whether it be a game or a movie or anything else, is a rental. It is not ownership in the way that I have Einhander out there and can put it in my PlayStation at any time. It is a rental, pretty much in terms of you actually owning the media. Now, I know most people know this, if not all of us know this, and this is where it becomes very subjective, because I feel like a hypocrite in a way, in the fact that I buy mainly about 80% of digital media. For me, I live in a place where shipping is extremely expensive. even in the United States. It is just more accessible to purchase digital media. But that still doesn't make me any less upset over the handling of these things. Because I feel that if you purchase something, be it digital or physical, you should own that. And now we come to Sony's recent announcement. This is from Gematsu. The headline is Sony Interactive Entertainment to end physical game disc production in January 2028. The subline is a natural direction to adapt to consumer trends. Sony Interactive will end physical game disc production for all new games releasing on PlayStation consoles starting January 2028, the company announced. Following this date, new games will be available via PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital forms only. So pretty much what that means is that you're going to be sold a box with a key card inside of it or a code inside of it. So what's the point, I ask? Sony says, this is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment to adapt to consumer trends as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. This transition will enable us to align more closely with how most of our community prefers to access and play games today. We'll continue to prioritize our research to drive innovation. God, this is a fucking awful sentence. We'll continue to prioritize our research to drive innovation in how players can access games and provide choices as to where players prefer to purchase new games, whether that's at retailers or PlayStation Store. We remain committed to delivering a world-class gaming experience to our fans, and we thank you for your continued support. That is the biggest horseshit I've ever heard in my life. They don't give a fuck about you. They give a fuck about your wallet. He is not wrong in the fact that I believe it's 85% of all sales on the PlayStation platform are digital, and the rest are physical. Now, that varies depending on who's taking the data. You know, that is a significant difference. But the thing is you're leaving a large portion of people behind. The people that will pay for, $300, $400 for a collector's set. But it's more than that, right? It's more than that. When we get down to brass taxes, they don't want you to own anything. They want it to be a revocable license that they can take away at any point. Just think about the people that have bought those Studio Canal movies and movies like The Deer Hunter, that they just took away their rights to the movies that they bought, not rented, bought. And that is what hurts the most about this. A lot of times, I know for me, I'm not thinking about the ownership of the media I'm buying, because I expect that when I pay for something, it is mine. And maybe I should have known better. Maybe I should have felt the dystopia coming on of giant corporations completely taking everything away from us. I guess my positivity blinded me. And this is why I have always been a proponent of emulation. I know that whenever this happened to PT back, I guess probably about a decade ago, my brother had it saved on his PlayStation. And I remember PlayStations that had PT on it were going for about $2,000 at that point because they had completely taken it off the PlayStation Store. Or Scott Pilgrim. I know a lot of people could only play that because they had pirated versions of it or they were emulating it. Without emulation, we would have lost so much that they have tried to take from us. And that is not fucking okay. We vote with our wallets. We always have and always will. We've told people what we wanted just based on the fact that we're giving them money. We're telling these corporations and these developers, hey, it is okay to do this to me because I'm actively supporting it. Even if you don't know you are. I know that a lot of this is subjective from my end. Some of you may disagree with me, and that's okay. The whole point of this is to start a conversation, is to get you involved in what I'm talking about. I would like to know what you think about Sony's decision to completely stop supporting physical discs, and how does that make you feel? Are you, do you not care? Are you upset about it? Are you apathetic to the situation? Let's start a discourse about this. All right, thank you for sticking around. Stay frosty. I walked into the attic. I hadn't been up there in years. Nothing but dust. wanted to try this up an old life. I wiped away the dust, sitting on top of an old family album. But as I turned the pages, I decided against it. It's complicated. Old swords. Old video game consoles. So much left forgotten. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe that's for the best. But then again, in a world obsessed with memory, maybe living in the past is the best. That's when I found what I was looking for. My grandmother's name. I missed her so much. So much. I closed the door. Maybe next year.